Hare Krishna.
Is there a live band on that side?
I live 3 streets away from here.
3 streets away.
3 streets away, yeah.
Nice.
And they're closest to maybe.
Beach, you know.
Okay, yeah, maybe. Now, yeah.
Here, let me mute. No, I don't have a. You want to lead kirtan?
Sure.
Okay, we have a live band. You know the drill, right? A few minutes just to start things up.
Yeah.
One tune, one mantra.
Yes. Vishnu Padaya Krishna Kristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Kristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vastatya Shataine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Vastatya Shataine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Nityananda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Purnamhansa Parikaj Charja Ashto Tarusakshi Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Miraj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Sridhar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kunikiri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to our Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today is July 29, 2024, and we're continuing our reading with Canto 4, Chapter 1, Text 53. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'll read the first couple verses and then I'll pass it along on text 56, which has the purport, but I'll read until then. Yayor Janmanyado Vishvam Abhyanandat Sunirvritam Manangsi Kakubhovata Prasedu Saritodrayaha. On the occasion of the appearance of Naranarayana, the entire world was full of joy. Everyone's mind became tranquil, and thus, in all directions, the air, the rivers, and the mountains became pleasant. Divyavadyanta turyani petu kusuma vrishtaya munayas tushtuvustushta jagurgandharva kinnaraha nrityanti smastriyo devya asit parama mangalam deva brahmadaya sarve upatastur abhishtavaihi. In the heavenly planets, bands began to play, and they showered flowers from the sky. The pacified sages chanted Vedic prayers. Yeah, sorry, I have a... All right, wife to the rescue. Baby is taken care of. Forgive me for the interruption. Let me start this translation again. In the heavenly planets, bands began to play, and they showered flowers from the sky. The pacified sages chanted Vedic prayers. The denizens of heaven, known as the Gandharvas and Kinnaras, sang. The beautiful damsels of the heavenly planets danced, and in this way, at the time of the appearance of Naranarayana, all signs of good fortune were visible. Just at that time, great demigods, like Brahma, also offered their their respectful prayers. All right. I guess I'll continue. Deva uchu yo maya virachitam nijayat manidam ke rupa bhedam iva tat pratichakshanaya etena dharma sadane rishi murti nadya pradushchakara purushaya nama parasmai. The demigod said, "Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the transcendental personality of Godhead, who created as his external energy this cosmic manifestation, which is situated in him as the air and clouds are situated in space, and who has now appeared in the form of Naranarayana Rishi in the house of Dharma." The universal form of the Lord is the cosmic manifestation, which is an exhibition of the external energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In space, there are innumerable varieties of planets, and also the air. And in the air, there are variously colored clouds, and sometimes we see airplanes running from one place to another. Thus, the entire cosmic manifestation is full of variety. But actually, that variety is a manifestation of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and that energy is situated in him. Now the Lord himself, after manifesting his energy, appeared within the creation of his energy, which is simultaneously one with and different from himself. And therefore the demigods offered their respects to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who manifests himself in such varieties. There are some philosophers called non-dualists, who because of their impersonal conception think that varieties are false. In this verse, it is specifically stated, yo maya virachitam. This indicates that the varieties are a manifestation of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, because the energy is non-different from the Godhead, the varieties are also factual. The material varieties may be temporary, but they are not false. They are a reflection of the spiritual varieties. Here the word pratichakshanaya, there are varieties, announces the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appeared as Naranarayana Rishi, and who is the origin of all varieties of material nature. Maybe I'll pass it back to you, Guru Maharaj, for commenting. I have nothing of any special significance to add.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskriti Deshatari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Samo Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Rama. This verse could sort of just go by us. Seems like an ordinary prayer, but there are, as Prabhupada points out, important points being established here. Ya Maya Virachitam. This he by whom this entire universe is virachita, devised or produced. In Hare Krishna, in the commentaries, you'll find Vishwanath Chakravarti Virachitam, Sridhar Swami Virachitam, made by Vishwanath or made by Sridhar Swami. Hare Krishna, come on. So here, made by the personality of Godhead. Made by the personality of Godhead. Maya, by his energy. Sometimes we get the sort of ordinary non-dualists, the sort of off the street non-dualists, and they'll say, yes, what we say is the same thing as what you say, what my guru says is the same thing as what your guru says. But once you get down to it, it's clearly different, because they're saying that everything is one, it's just one, it's just everything is one, everything is one. And that's not sensible, because everything is manifestly not one. And the example is given that there are clouds in the sky. K rupa bhedam ivatat pratichakshanaya. In the sky, he manifests clouds, or we manifest airplanes. There's stars. There's so many things up in the sky. It's not all one up there. There's variety. So then we have to ask, well, where does the variety come from? Okay, somebody made the planes, the airplanes, but what is the source of the planets, the stars, the clouds, and so on? Ya maya ya virachitam. It's all crafted or produced from his energies. Ya maya ya. It's also significant because we hear that the absolute truth is unchangeable. The absolute, and that he doesn't do anything. Caitanya-caritamrta vidyate. So if we think that the absolute truth somehow creates all of these things, and you say, well, wait a second, he's not supposed to be doing that. But here, Maya, his energy does everything. So he remains the same, and his energy does everything. He doesn't have to do anything. Just like a very big man, he doesn't have to do anything. He just picks up the phone, or he doesn't even have to pick up the phone. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Okay? Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. So by his arrangement, it all happens. By adhyakshena. Krishna says, by my supervision, suyate, prakriti suyate, etc., material nature is working. And again, that's another big point. Material nature is not working automatically, as some of our science friends would have it, that nature does everything on its own. That doesn't really work either. How does inert matter? Matter is essentially inert, certainly not conscious. So how does it cook up everything? How does all this variety come? If everything is one, where does the variety come from? And if everything is just a product of matter, how from simple matter have we gotten this exceedingly complex cosmic manifestation? Whichever of those two views we take, the materialistic reductionism or spiritual reductionism, which is the absolute reductionism, everything finally flattens down to one impersonal absolute, or in the Buddhist philosophy, to one shunya, one void. How from your void, or from your impersonal absolute, or from your simple matter, have we gotten all this complexity? Really, it has to be interrogated. One of the attendees from my class the last couple of days in Brooklyn, where we were talking about such things, thought that I was being sort of rough on the Buddhists because I just basically said their philosophy didn't work. It's not my fault. It's not a sign of some sort of personal disrespect or intolerance or whatever. But if you're going to talk about philosophy, you have to talk about what works and what doesn't work. You can't just say, oh, yes, I love your philosophy too. Oh, you love my philosophy too. Oh, well, good. We all love one another's philosophy. Let's, hold hands and dance around the campfire. That really doesn't work. I may respect you, but I can respectfully suggest that your philosophy doesn't compute, doesn't make sense, doesn't explain what it's meant to explain. Of course, you have the opportunity to come back and show me how it does. But if you can't, then we have to say, well, what's going on? So Maya Virachitam. Everything is created by his energy, and then everything is situated within him. Atmani, Nijri Atmani. All these varieties are within him, and that same person appears within what he's created. Dharma Sadhane, in the house of Dharma, his father's name was Dharma. Rishi Murtina, in the form of a sage. Narayan Rishi, actually in the form of two sages. Sometimes it gets a little, what's the word? Perplexing, because Prabhupada refers to Narayan sometimes in the singular and sometimes in the plural. But it's, as we read the text in this chapter, it will become clear. It's plural. There are two sages here, Nara, Nada, and Narayana. One is the energy of the Lord, the other is the Lord himself. So Rishi Murtina, Purushaya Nama Parasmai. So we offer our respectful obeisances to him. Any questions? Yes.
Maharaj, how would one refute if someone were to argue that although there is a material variety, that the variety is just on the spiritual platform is still one?
How would we respond if someone says that although, not like that, although there's material variety on the spiritual platform, the varieties are one? Well, now you're not talking about variety anymore. But if you say, all right, there's material variety, but spiritually everything is one, where does the material variety come from? If we say that matter comes from spirit, and spirit is homogeneous, it's absolutely one, without variety, without any duality, without variety, then all right, how from that do you have variety here? That you have to explain now.
One might argue that the opposite is true.
Opposite of what is true?
Well, if everything is temporary here, then it's eternal in the spiritual world. If there's variety here, then there's no variety there.
Yes. If everything's temporary here, and everything must be the opposite there. If everything's variety here, there must be no variety there. That means no material variety. Besides that, we can explain how from the eternal you get something temporary. How can you explain how from no variety you get variety? There must be some way, because when you have absolute oneness, remember there's no desire to create variety. I've talked before about my sister has a friend in Princeton who has written some books for children, and one of the books is written in the first person by the universe, and it has things like, and then I decided to, and then I decided to expand, and then I decided to, but matter has no will of its own. It doesn't decide to do things. And on the spiritual platform, if everything is one, then there's no one to make any decisions or to desire to do this So why, again, how do you get variety? We say there's a personality of Godhead, and he creates varieties. Just as you're a person, you create varieties. You create, different paintings or writings or businesses or whatever it is that you want to make in variety. Because you have a desire to do that. But the impersonal Brahma has no such desires.
So then, would that mean that in the material world, there isn't spiritual variety?
In the material world, there isn't spiritual variety. There's so many living entities. They're all individual. So they're in the material world, but I'm not you, you're not me. So there's variety or individuality here too. Spiritually also. That's an indication. We say everything is one in the spiritual world, then why are all the spirits different down here? There's a spiritual world, okay, and in that spiritual world, all beings are one. Then why are all the beings different here? Why is it that after I have lunch, you don't feel full? Why is it that when you attain enlightenment, I don't automatically attain enlightenment? Since you're you and I'm me, and I'm you and you're me, and all of that. If we're all one, then when you attain enlightenment, I should automatically attain enlightenment. So every living being should be enlightened as long as one has become enlightened, and all should be enlightened, which is not what we seek. So the variety of spiritual living beings here indicates that there's a variety of spiritual living beings in the spiritual world. It's just like if you see a variety of Americans in Spain, it implies there must be a bigger variety in America. If everyone in America is the same person somehow, or we're all identical, how could there be a variety of Americans in Spain? So there's so many variegated living beings in the material world. Indicates, and since they're eternal, you go to the spiritual world, there should be variety. Is that okay? Anything else? Yes.
So, Maharaj, I was appreciating the stance you're taking on Buddhism. You're saying that, we might respect you, but we think your philosophy doesn't work. You said about Buddhism.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we're meeting people have such an impersonal conception. When we want to preach to them, we sometimes preach to them on the level that they are able to understand. Like we'll talk about Krishna consciousness is like a meditation. We'll talk about it on kind of a lower level, but we won't necessarily give them we won't give them Krishna consciousness exactly the same way Srila Prabhupada might have presented it.
Why not?
Yeah, because we don't think that they could accept that they can handle it. Do you think that's
well? Everybody has their own. We don't give when we meet people who are don't understand Krishna consciousness, we speak to them in such a way as not to challenge them, not to say anything. We just say, "Oh, it's meditation."
Yeah.
We don't say anything about the topics we're discussing. My question would be, why not? Okay, if you can take that approach if you want, and not that maybe you have a plan, maybe you're expert and it goes from phase 1 to phase 2, and at the end you've caught the fish. But otherwise, we can spend a lot of time going on and saying something like, "Well, it's all about love. You believe in love, don't you?" Yeah, we believe in love too. Just it's kind of a higher love, but it's love, and we're all about love. And go on like that, then and then the next thing is we're all, it's a kind of meditation, And you're into meditation, right? Yeah, well, this is meditation. And we don't say much more than that. It's meditation, it's love. It's nice and soft and fluffy. You'll feel good. You can say all that if you want. And maybe, again, if you're expert, that'll be the first step in a process by which a person comes to understand the whole package. Or on the other hand, you know, it never goes anywhere. He met a devotee who has full knowledge of the truth, and from that devotee he heard that God is love, and that meditation is good, and that vegetarianism is. They were glad that you're a vegan, because that's nice. We have a philosophy. We have some substance to deliver. And Prabhupada's process was to put it out there quite clearly. I told this story before, but there was a very nice girl who was coming when I was first coming to the temple. After I first joined, and then in 2 months, Prabhupada came. There was a girl from one of these yoga societies who was attending the classes. Yoga societies, then yoga actually had some pretense to being a spiritual path, and there was some philosophy and so on. Impersonalist philosophy, but some philosophy. It was more than just stretches and exercises. So this girl was coming, and she was coming quite regularly. And she was, she's one of those girls who would always smile because whatever you said was what she believed also. It's kind of speaking to those people who's trying to nail Jello to the wall. It's just anything you say is the same as what they think. Anyway, so Prabhupada came. She attended his lecture, and at the end of the lecture, she asked a question, quite almost as if she was Prabhupada's collaborator. She was going to give him a softball or something, an opportunity to speak the truth. So she says, Swamiji, isn't it true that everything is one? And I don't remember the exact words, but Prabhupada said no. Flatly no. And he gave the example, just like there are 9 holes in your body. So does it mean you can put food here, or here, or here? He said you have to put food in the stomach. So how is it that everything is one? There's differences. If you put your food here, there'll be no benefit. You have to put it in the stomach. So he told her clearly that there were different processes, and that some of the processes didn't work. There are different ideas of the truth. Some of them were invalid or inferior. He didn't pussyfoot so that she would feel, yes, very nice. Swami is so loving, so spiritual. He may have been loving and spiritual, but he laid it on the line. And she was really upset too. She thought she was going to get a nice, soft, everything is one package. And instead, Swamiji said that everything wasn't one at all. And practically ridiculed the idea that everything can be one. So, again, you can do what you like, but that's what Prabhupada did. And I don't know that we would really improve on it by trying some other method. That tendency is always there to want to say something that everybody will agree with, to, well, what are we like? Well, we're just like your, your neighbors. We're just like the people next door. We're we maybe this or that. We may belong to a different group or something, but really we're like everyone else. And what do we believe? Well, same thing everybody believes. We believe in love. We believe in God. We believe in American apple pie. We believe in, we want to fit in. We want people to accept us. We want to say something that will go down well with people. We don't want to say anything that would be confrontational or contrary. So we feed them baby food. But Prabhupada didn't give them baby food and didn't ask us to give them baby food. In the Bible, I guess I could look it up even. Let's see. Just for the sake of being. Matthew 5:13. Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? How are you going to salt the earth if the salt has lost its saltiness? It is therefore good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. So don't hide your stuff. Don't hide your stuff. If your salt has saltiness, it's worth something. If you don't have any taste in your salt, it's useless. Like you get a whole bag of chilies and the chili has no heat. What's the use of it? Take it back to the store. These chilies don't have any heat. If you have a light, you don't put it under a basket or under a bushel or something. You put it where light will go out. Some people are looking for the truth. And if you don't give it, then what's the use of you?
It's almost sometimes like we're afraid to speak the philosophy directly because we're also afraid that we're not practicing it at that level. And then we speak it with like very high philosophy.
You don't have to speak very high philosophy and, Radha Krishna Leela and Gopi Bhav and all of that. How about you're not this body? Life is meant for spiritual realization, not for sense gratification. There must be God. God must be a person. These are not very, what would we say? This doesn't require that you have a doctor, a Bhakti Sarvabhauma or something. Anyone who's been hanging around with us for 3 weeks or so would know these things. Just repeat what you've heard. You don't have to think, I don't really understand. Even if you don't understand it, this is what we've heard. Or Krishna says, all right, it's not you don't have any claim to great knowledge, but Krishna says this, Krishna says that. Bhagavad Gita says this. It's not I think or I realize. Just we're following Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita says you're not this body. What is the difficulty? So we have a message. And Prabhupada always gave that message. Not, but he spoke something. And it might fall on deaf ears. People might not get it. Or they might. Sometimes they hear it again, they hear it again, they hear it again. After a while, they start to know something. They start to get it. Prabhupada said, little drops of water wear away a stone. But if you give them nothing, little drops of nothing do nothing. Doesn't mean you have to be obnoxious. Doesn't mean you have to be rude. Doesn't mean you have to be insulting. But you have to tell them something. Otherwise, what could be a messenger who's so shy that he can't blurt out the message? What's the use? Choose a dumb man as your messenger. A person, a man who has no ability to speak. Choose him as your messenger. I mean, to utter a word. You don't have to be a great orator, but you have to at least be able to say, this is this. Is that okay? When we read Bhagavatam, who are the great souls who say, well, whatever you think, yeah, we kind of agree. Yeah, I see how you might look at it that way. And yes, I respect your point of view. Who is it that says that? Which of our acharyas are so namby-pamby that they just go along with whatever, what's the use? I was attracted because Prabhupada, said something. You might agree with it or you might disagree with it, but he had something to say. And there's so many of these other guys, it's just like one Swami came to see Prabhupada when Prabhupada was in hospital in New York. And he said something like, I love you, Swamiji. And Prabhupada said, I love you too, Swamiji, but not on this material platform. He wasn't a Swamiji, he was a Yogi-ji. Yogi Bhajan came to see Srila Prabhupada in Berkeley. I was there. And he was inviting Prabhupada to a peace conference. And Prabhupada basically told him, your peace conference will be useless, it won't do anything. He said, you can write it down in your notebook. It will be useless. Because there's no Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada didn't say, oh yes, peace, we're all for peace. We believe in peace too. What's the use? If you're just like everybody else, then you're not any more useful than anyone else. And everyone else is boring. That's why we're looking for something more. And if you're not that something, then what's the use of you? I'm looking for the truth, and you're not saying anything. I'll keep looking. If you say something, you may say it well, you may say it badly. I might agree, I might disagree, but there's something now to deal with. Okay? Again, some mature person has a strategy and begins, starts soft and then turns up the heat. Okay. I'm reminded of one Mr. Sethi in Bombay, who became one of our staunchest allies and supporters. So first time he met Prabhupada in Juhu, Prabhupada said, so, what are you doing? You know, I'm working, I'm supporting my family. What's the difference between you and a pig? And Mr. Sethi thought about it. Yes, what's the difference between me and a pig? If, you know, pig has his family, I have my family. What's the difference between you and a pig? Of course, we may not imitate Prabhupada. Prabhupada was older, so he could say these things. Cultural norms that an older person can say something to a younger person. But Prabhupada, yeah, he didn't. Oh yes, I'm just like your grandfather, so let me give you a hug. Yeah, what's the difference between you and a pig? Okay, anything else?
We have a few things in the chat box, but I was reminded, Maharaj, when you were saying that we shouldn't hide our philosophy, we should speak plainly what we're representing. It reminded me of the Bengali proverb that the dancing girl has gone on stage. Now don't pull your veil. You know, take off the veil. You're there to dance, so dance. All right, I'll start in the beginning from Praveen Krishna Prabhu. A question.
You reminded me that when Prabhupada first came to America, he thought as soon as I say these 4 rules, they'll say, now you go home.
Mm.
He said, but I knew I wasn't going to compromise. Yes, go ahead.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu asks, are the non-dualists the same as the Mayavadis?
Yes.
And then from Saraswati Devi, Pranams Param Puja Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas, how would you explain logically to someone how anything material can become spiritualized by the process of devotional service, but visually you still see it function as the original material object? This could include jivas still in a material body, but have attained a spiritual form.
Prabhupada's example was always the iron rod and the fire. You put the iron rod in the fire, it remains an iron rod. It still looks like an iron rod. Someone may say it's just an iron rod. Prabhupada said, I say touch it. Although it may be an iron rod, by the contact with fire, it's become as good as fire. That was Prabhupada's example.
And then we have a question from Tulsi Priya Devi. People will argue over all kinds of trivialities, but in the name of being spiritual, they will go to great lengths to avoid confrontation and assert the truth. Why is this? I don't mean religious war, but why not have serious conversations about philosophy and theology? For example, they can argue over these the way they do politics.
Yeah, it's even in what would you say, much esteemed interreligious dialogue. One of the first rules of interreligious dialogue is you say what you are. You're not there just to say, yes, actually, we believe the same thing you believe. Mm-hmm. Yes, actually, there's not much difference between us. We're all practically identical, just a difference of names, blah, 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 blah. And then where's the dialogue? What's the point? We came to find out what the other person thinks. He came to find out what I think. So why do we hold back and say, well, really, we think the same thing that you think? What's the point? We should be respectful. We should hear from them about what they think. That's not that, we know more than you, we're better than you. But here's our take on it. And even here's why we think this perhaps explains things better than some other view. But in any case, what is it that you're about? We want to know. Even in cultural things, You know, we celebrate multicultural existence. What's the use of multicultural existence if everybody's going to wear the same jeans, speak the same language, eat the same food, um, you know, tell the same jokes? If you lose your culture, then you lost it. There's no multicultural anymore. Now you're just mainstream, plain vanilla. So we stand for something. And that means we stand against something also. If Krishna is a person and the ultimate truth is ultimately personal, then it's not impersonal. Or it's personal and impersonal. We can discuss that. But finally, there's a personality of Godhead. And he's not just a projection of some higher impersonal principle. So that's not the same idea as your idea. It's a different idea. You can accept it or you can reject it, but now you've heard it. We're not speaking the same thing that everybody already knows, the perennial philosophy, the dinosaur platitudes. Oh, why should we want to be there? If you have an idea, then put it out there. And people may, you have a product, put it out there. It may fail or it may succeed, but at least you've put it on the market. Mm. Yes, okay, I went back to that.
Ananta Shesh offers an appreciation. Thank you, Maharaj, for elucidating the steps we could use when we approach new people. And then we have a question, a statement from Murari Gupta Prabhu. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yes.
I'm questioning.
We saw that Prabhupada, he would meet journalists or anyone, and he would speak something about Krishna consciousness. I remember I was in Detroit. He met with a young journalist girl. I think she must have just been out of journalism school, and she was asking the usual stupid questions. And Prabhupada treated her as if she weren't a journalist at all. He just spoke to her, that after millions of births, you've come here, so it's my duty to tell you something about Krishna consciousness. He wasn't there to answer, the usual dumb questions for the Detroit newspaper. He was there. Krishna had sent this spirit soul. He gave her something, Krishna consciousness. What's the use of a candle hidden under a bushel?
What's the use of a candle where?
Hidden under, yeah, exactly. Where?
But seriously though, what is the second part?
Hidden under a bushel.
Under a bushel. Okay, thank you much. Mm-hmm. Well, we only have a couple more minutes. I'm thinking Tulsi Priya says a bushel basket. I don't think we can do text 57 justice in just 2 minutes. So I'm wondering if there's any more discussion to be had, or if we turn it over to a 2-minute early kirtan.
2-minute early kirtan.
Does the live band wish to? Oh, there's a hand up from Ekendra Prabhu.
Well, Kendra's hand we respect.
Oh, Tulsi Priya's hand.
Well, I guess we have to respect her hand too.
Yes, Tulsi Priya did.
Oh, Maharaj, what he was saying, it's funny because I was just thinking about something before Maharaj said what he said about the reporter. And there's a story where a reporter runs up to Prabhupada and said, oh gosh, I can't remember what the reporter was asking you, or I think he says, how are you different from other Buddhists? And Prabhupada said, we have nothing to do with this Buddhism or Hinduism or any other ism or something like that. He says, we are speaking the absolute truth. And if you are truthful, you will accept it. And I think in the way it's described, it might be in the Lilamrita, that the reporter just kind of dropped his pencil and his mouth hung open because Prabhupada was speaking directly to this reporter. And I've heard it mentioned that that's how Prabhupada dealt with these reporters for the most part, that he was preaching to them, not to the newspapers. He was preaching to that person. So I appreciated Maharaj bringing up that point also.
Thank you. Kirtan. Who is leading Kirtan? Not Prema Money. Yes. There's Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rad Panaman Supri Praj Charja Ashto Tirusakshi Shimad AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Miraj Prabhupada Ki Jai Adanta Koti Vaishnavita Ki Jai Namacharya Sridhar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai Navadip Tham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Jamadamai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. O Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, Marge. A highlight for me was what you Wow. A a highlight for me was when you mentioned that we may know the philosophy powerfully or may make some mistakes, but at least speak something. And these classes are an opportunity to dive deep. If you don't know anything about the philosophy, it's hard to say something. So thank you for these regular meetings. Thank you all for joining us today, and I look forward to Wednesday. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj ki jai.
Again, Hare Krishna, Samaveta Bhakta Ki Jai. And now my volume has disappeared, and I don't know what anyone's saying, what's going on. There we go. Hare Krishna.